Hello, my friends. Master Sommelier Peter Neptune here with a very exciting edition of my YouTube channel. I am going to look at dessert wines, but I'm going to look at specifically Noble Rot v. Passitamento, dried grapes, v. frozen grapes. And I'm going to try to help you understand, because a lot of people are doing like advanced or MS exams, like how do I tell the difference between a wine that has botrytis, noble rot, versus a wine that has been from dried grapes or frozen grapes. And so we're going to look at all three. So we've got ourselves a Tokai Azu. This is the great Chateau Parzos, and this is a 5 Putoños wine in Tokai Azu. We've got ourselves a Donna Fugata, the Benrai Pasito della Pantelleria. So this is a Passitamento wine from dried grapes from the island of Pantelleria in the middle of the Mediterranean there, from the Zibibo grape, which is what they call Moscato on Pantelleria. And this is the great Wayne Gretzky. Yes, Wayne Gretzky owns a winery up in the Niagara Peninsula. It's a VQA wine, a Vintners Quality Alliance wine, and he makes ice wine as well as a number of other wines. And this is a Cabernet Franc ice wine, VQA, from the 2012 vintage that a student of mine brought back from a visit up to that area. So this should be interesting. Look at the colors. Wow. I mean, like this is gold. So that's like a saturated medium plus gold. This is amber. So that's like a medium amber. And this is tawny, right? That's like a tawny color. It looks like a tawny port. So, boy, if you could see these, it's just a great, great look at the colors of these wines. That's such a trip. So, in the area known as Tokai, up in northern Hungary, they make a wine that they've been making for centuries. That is known as the King of Wines and the Wine of Kings, and it is made by typically the Furmint grape. Along with the Harzlevelu grape, easy for you to say, is allowed to botrytize. So noble rot attacks these berries. That's a whole nother class, but begins to shrivel the berries, and the water evaporates out, and the sugars and acids are concentrated, and a biochemical change takes place inside the grapes where botrytazine is injected into the grapes. It's actually an antibiotic, and it's good for you. The Romans used botrytis paste as neosporin for their wounds. So that this stuff was fed to the czars of Russia and the kings of Hungary for centuries as medicine by their doctors. And there's very special conditions that have to be met in nature for botrytis to occur. But for me, one of the things that will help you pick out botrytis wines in a lineup of dessert wines is this fungus character, this mushroomy character, and indeed a medicinal character, kind of like Bactine. So it's or like a hospital. There's just this kind of antiseptic character that comes through in Sauterne and Tokai Azu and these other things. The word Putoños reflects back to when they used to make these wines. They would pick the botrytized berries and put them in these 25 kilogram baskets called a putoni. And then they would mash the berries into a paste, which is called azu, and then dump the paste into a static vessel of dry white wine, and that wine would absorb all of this botrytized paste and become sweeter and sweeter. And the number of putoños that were added to this static vessel of 136 liters dictated the sweetness. Recent changes to the laws of Hungary now demand that Tokai Azu be 120 grams per liter of sugar in the finished wine, which would be the equivalent of 5 putoños. 150 grams per liter of sugar would be the equivalent of 6 putoños. So they don't allow 3 or 4 putoños on the bottle anymore. Older bottles you'll find, they would be less sweet. And then they go ahead and allow 5 or 6 putoños and either other nomenclature on the label. But, this wine, beautiful aroma of and again, botrytis wines typically give us this marmalade, and this apricot and honey character. I get a medicinal note here that I just don't get on the other two wines. So there is this medicinal kind of mushroomy, antibiotic aroma here that you just got to memorize, and you can then begin to pick that up if you're smelling a Tokaj or a Sauterne or a noble sweet wine from Australia or something like that. But it's this honeyed marmalade, beautiful apricot upside down cake, very complex, layered of orange peel, lemon peel, orange candy, caramel. There's a vanilla in the background. I mean, it's just a quite astounding nose. On the palate, well, that's way beyond 5 putoños. I think this says 200 grams per one. What is this? 20 grams per 100 milliliters. So that's 200. It's like 170 grams per liter. My math has never been very good. That's sweet for sure. Full body, a lot of presence on the palate, and what's amazing is still high acidity. So because they're adding this pulp, this paste of azu paste to high acid dry white wine, you still have high acidity with the wine, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, this wine, and they use an Ardea seal for this, so this wine will last 100 more years. And I'm glad they're doing this. I hope that every producer in Tokaj uses this Ardea seal, because one of the problems with Tokaj is that while it could last for 100 years, the corks fail, and then the wine becomes oxidized, and that would be a bummer. This is just outstanding wine, probably close to perfect. For me, this is the ultimate wine with like a torchon of foie gras. It's just absolutely brilliant. But note that medicinal character on the wine. This is the Donna Fugata Ben Rai Pasito di Pantelleria. And they do, this is wild, they do two things. They pick grapes in August. So they pick these Zibibo grapes in August and they dry them out on mats and they become raisins. And then, and that's about 4 weeks of drying. And they concentrate the sugars and aromas in the raisins. And then they pick grapes later on, around the last days of November, of super ripe grapes, and then they put the two together. So they press the juice out of the dried grapes and the super ripe grapes, and then vinify them and age them together for about 12 months. So you get this really, really intense dried, and so this is more like dried sultana or dried raisin in character, much more so than the Tokaj Azu. This has much more of this mushroom, fungal character. This is much more dried sultana, dried yellow raisin, dried fruit, dried apricot, apple, dried orange peel, right? It's just quite amazing. Very, very concentrated, very, very profound and pronounced nose. On the palate, super concentrated, syrupy. Sugar is very high. Residual sugar is very high. This is very sweet. Acid's medium. Body's full. Intensity's pronounced. Finish is long. Outstanding wine. Man, this would be great with creme brulee, blue cheese, really sugary desserts. And remember, when you're matching dessert wine and desserts, you've got to have the dessert wine be as sweet as the dessert. So I've got to taste that dessert when I'm working with a chef and we're looking at what's for dessert and I'm matching a dessert wine. I want the dessert wine to be as sweet as the dessert, because the sweetness in the dessert is going to lower the impression of sugar in the wine. This is a really, really great bottle of wine, but there's none of that fungus medicinal character here, and it's very much like dried yellow sultana and dried raisin and dried fruit. So there's your key to the Appassimento wine. This ice wine is a trip. It's a Cabernet Franc ice wine. So what they do here is that for ice wine to be able to happen, the grapes have to be perfectly healthy, ripe on the vine, And you have a situation where you get, kind of this late harvest situation where it's minus 8 degrees centigrade, so below freezing, for a minimum of 8 hours. That'll freeze the water portion of the grape. You can then crush the grape, remove that ice, and what's left behind is just the pulp with the acid and the sugar and the flavor. So you're concentrating the acids, sugars, and flavors by removing the water portion. We did this by drying in the sun. We do this by freezing. A trip, right? What a trip. It's just amazing what we can do in the world of wine and how much science we can learn. Well, who's that guy on TV? I feel like I'm that scientist guy here. Bill Nye, I think, right? So the aromas here are very concentrated and very intense. And there's like cranberry. And we get red currant and caramelized sugar and wild strawberry and like toasted cinnamon stick. So it kind of smells like a cranberry cinnamon thing at winter time, at Christmas time. But ice wine for me just has this really vibrating intensity of fruit and this surplus of like this with ice wine from Cabernet Franc, this cranberry cherry thing happening. Again, we don't get the dried fruit that we get here, and we don't get the fungal mushroom that we get here. So it's just another approach to making dessert wine. And this has some definite age on it. So this has some tertiary as well. And I said dried, this kind of dried fruit. There's a tertiary kind of like a moss character underneath on the palate. That is outstanding wine. Oh my God. That's like the best cranberry juice I've ever had my whole life. That's sweet. That is lusciously sweet. High acidity. Cranberry. Ocean spray cranberry with a bunch of sugar in it. Naturally. Wow. That's perfect wine. These are all perfect. I love them. That's great. Sweet. Lusciously sweet. High acid. Concentrated. It's only 11% alcohol by volume. This is only, what's the alcohol on this one? It's not that high. It's 14.5% alcohol by volume. And this one's probably 12.5. Probably right around 12.5. No, 10%. This is $54.95 for a 500 ml. This is $49.99 for a half bottle. Or is this a 500 ml? Is this a half bottle or a 500? I can't tell. This looks like a half bottle to me. And this is about $64 for a 200 ml. You don't get a lot of juice from dried out grapes, from botrytis, from dried out grapes, from drying out, and from frozen grapes where you remove the actual water content. Hopefully this helped you. The only thing to do is grab a botrytized wine, a passitamento wine, and an ice wine, and taste them yourself. Get yourself some blue cheese, get yourself some really nice desserts, invite some friends, and just have a party, because this is a party. I love sweet wines, and these are wonderful. I love them all. These are all perfect in their own way, and as you can tell, I'm very excited. This was an awesome tasting for me. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you.